son, I had a vision, right? Say where I gotta do it is in the air.
Prisoner? What prisoner?
Allahu Akbar.
Why was nobody ever prosecuted for that gun in the plane that ISMAEL LABEET got his hands on?
I said, don't do it, man. I know you, I know your family.
Rowdy Nation TV, welcome back to the channel. That clip you just seen is a documentary of ISMAEL LABEET. It's called A Skyjacker's Tale. Now we're going to get into this story about ISMAEL LABEET and what led up to this hijacking of American plane. Now it all started out with the Fountain Valley Massacre. It was a mass shooting that occurred on the afternoon of September 6, 1972 at the Fountain Valley Golf Course in St. Croix, United States Virgin Islands. You guys ever been to St. Croix or St. Thomas, Virgin Islands? I haven't been. One of these days I would definitely like to go. But I was just wondering if you heard this story. Did you know that this happened? You know what I'm saying? Did anybody ever tell you about this story while you were vacationing on this island? Because it's one of the biggest incidents that happened on this island in the past 40, 50 years. You know what I'm saying? The incident left resort employees, left 8 resort employees and tourists dead. Another 8 were either wounded or shot. But don't let me tell the story. I'm going to let them tell the story. We're going to get back into it and see what led up to ISMAEL LABEET hijacking this plane. So let's get to it.
This is LABEET, the Fountain Valley murderer.
Oh, God, this is the guy who's responsible for 8 deaths.
It was just a political railroad, you know.
It was a typical day just like this.
From nowhere, you just see this man. They were all around, behind the bar, behind the kitchen.
They thought there was going to be a race war. I mean, that was the concept that was being put forward.
The natives are running down the street with machetes. White people must beware.
ISMAEL LABEET was the leader, the intellectual of the group.
I was supposed to be Richard Kimball looking for the one-armed man or something like that.
He's been frolicking on a Caribbean island for a long time.
I'm a revolutionary, I'm not a criminal, you know.
That was ISMAEL LABEET claiming that he's a revolutionary, he's not a criminal. I'll leave that up to you guys to judge that. I definitely have to check out the Skyjacker's Tale so I can get more information on what happened with ISMAEL LABEET. Now he said he's a revolutionary, not a criminal. Let's get into the massacre and find out what happened, and we can make our own judgment about that. Now the perpetrators were 5 Virgin Islanders: ISMAEL LABEET, Beaumont Garreau, Merle Smith, Warren Ballantyne, and Raphael Joseph. Now the authorities initially believed the 5 had committed the execution-style shootings in the course of a robbery gone bad. But later developments suggested that the killing was planned by at least one of the perpetrators. Now that's why you got to be careful, man. I don't condone going out robbing and killing and doing all this crazy nonsense. You know what I'm saying? But when you might find yourself hooking up with somebody, going out committing a jack or a lick or whatever you might want to call it, and then you might be going in to get the money, but somebody else might be a hothead, and somebody might move the wrong way, and somebody might let loose, and next thing you know, a robbery gone bad done turned into a murder, right? And that's something that that I don't know, depending upon where you're at, that could be a very devastating crime to deal with, right? Now, Joseph and Ballantyne testified at trial they expected only to commit a robbery, but that things got out of hand because LABEET was adamant that they also make a political statement. LABEET told them he was angry about foreigners coming in to take our money and leaving us with nothing. Now, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It seems like this man was just disgruntled, and to see all these foreigners coming in and setting up shop in his homeland and making all this money, and he doesn't feel that the natives, the islanders, was benefiting from it, right? So he was a very disgruntled person. I can't correlate that to being a revolutionary, because the crime you went in and you laid down like 8 people, shot like 16, killed 8, and then the other 8 are critically wounded. Now, all 5 defendants were convicted after a jury and a trial in the District Court of the Virgin Islands, a federal territorial court, on multiple charges of murder, assault, and robbery under Virgin Islands law. Each was sentenced to 8 consecutive life terms. Wow, that's crazy, right? Now, led by civil rights activist lawyer William Kunstler and Chauncey Eskridge, the defense at trial argued in part that the accused were politically motivated victims of a systematic race-based civil rights deprivation. All the defendants were all Afro-Caribbean, while 7 of the 8 victims were white. Wow. Now, if you guys don't know who William Kunstler is, he's a high-profile lawyer back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I mean, I think he probably did this pro bono. He probably did. They probably didn't even have to pay, because this is just the type of case that this guy be looking for. It's I'm pretty sure back in 1974, this probably was a high-profile case. I was too young to remember that. Now, the public's perception of a racial motivation for the killings and fear of further violence led to a steep decline in tourism to St. Croix, from which the island's tourism industry only recovered decades later. So this had to be a big thing, right? Now, I'm going to leave that up to you guys to decide whether this guy was a revolutionary. From what I'm getting out of just this little bit right here, I'm thinking this dude was just a criminal. You know what I'm saying? So what happened after he got that high-profile lawyer? You know what I mean? What happened to him? Joseph received a pardon from the governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands in 1994 after serving 22 years imprisonment, but died 4 years later of a drug overdose. Now, this man spent 22 years in prison and then get out and turn to drugs, bro. I don't understand that. You do 22 years and then you can't handle the streets. You get out on the streets and he couldn't handle the streets. He died from a drug overdose? Crazy. Now, the other 3 served 29 years in federal prison before being returned to the Virgin Islands custody and then transferred to private prisons in the United States. As of 2022, they remain incarcerated at the Citrus County Detention Facility north of Tampa, Florida. So they're telling us right there. We just read that together, right? There's 3 of those individuals, of the 3 left from those individuals that are still incarcerated as of 2022. And so I want to get into the part where he makes his escape. On December 31st, 1984, one of the shooters, ISMAEL LABEET, hijacked American Airlines Flight 626 while in the United States federal custody on a transfer to a new detention. The flight was forced to land in Cuba, where LABEET escaped. He was never recaptured by the United States, and with the thawing of Cuban and American relations in 2015, was confirmed to be living at large in Cuba, following an indeterminate amount of time spent in a Cuban prison. 3 of the 5 shooters remain in prison. Another is deceased. Now, we already went over that. We already know that 3 of the 5 prisoners are detained in Florida. We know that. We know that one of the shooters did 22 years, got out, and survived only 4 years before succumbing to a drug overdose. And we also know that ISMAEL LABEET is living large, living his best life in Cuba. And extraditions there are complicated because of the relationship between Cuba and America. So, he's been living his best life since when? When 1984? And this originally happened in 1974? So you guys got to be aware of some of the places that you go when you go on vacation. Sometimes I just thought this was very interesting that, because I want to go to St. Croix. I want to go to St. Thomas. But I didn't know about this particular story. I thought it was a very interesting story. ISMAEL LABEET claims to be a revolutionary. And, some people may look at him like that. I'm not sure. But the mere mention of his name to some of the to the islanders on St. Croix, they shun him. They don't even want, it's like a bad memory, you know what I'm saying? So, Rowdy Nation TV, click the like button, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, so anytime I drop a video, you guys can be notified. I'm out. I'm out.